We get so many questions when we are talking with buyers before they come to town, when they come to town, and today we're going to talk about some of the craziest questions and myths that we get so that you know what to expect when you move to or decide to live here in Southwest Florida. All right, first, this really isn't such a crazy question, but it is a question we get a lot, and it's how often do you actually go to the beach? So for us, the answer is definitely not as often as you would think, and definitely not as often as we maybe would want. The reality is that we live here full time. So we are here working, and we've got kids and a family and a fairly busy life. So we don't get to the beach as much as we would like. This is the truth. We do try to get out for a sunset on the beach every couple months, go have dinner, enjoy it. But the reality is sometimes we're able to sneak out during the day. We tend to visit the beach more if we have a boating day. We like to boat to the beaches that are not necessarily public access, which is a great fun thing that you can do if you have a boat or if you're a member of the boat club. So not as much as you think. In fact, it really is probably when people come to visit or we have friends in town who have places here and they're going to the beach, then we might join them there. So definitely something that I always say to Jeremy, like, we need to be going to the beach a little more. We're so blessed to live so close to these beautiful beaches, and we should be taking more advantage of them than we do. All right, the next kind of crazy question that we get asked a lot is, well, when you live in Southwest Florida and you live where other people vacation, where do you vacation? And I love this question because it is true. When you live where others vacation, it seems like sometimes do we even go on vacation because we already are lucky enough to live here in paradise? But we're living here, and again, we're working full time and we're running our businesses and we're running our kids around. So we don't always take a minute to enjoy. Like I said about the beaches, we don't always just dedicate time to do that. So locally, we love to go to Marco Island. That is one of our happy places. And it is a place that we really enjoy spending a couple days. We've spent a week there before because we don't live on the beach. So sometimes we enjoy having that option to go and enjoy a beach style vacation. There are tons of awesome places that you can visit here in Florida. So even if you're not looking to go to the beach, a lot of people will go to Disney for vacation. We live so close to, we have such easy access to the Keys, to the Caribbean. So depending on what you're looking for, but for us, we also like to go north in the summer. So we love to spend time in the North Carolina mountains in the western North Carolina. So we like to go up to Blowing Rock, Banner Elk, and get away up there for some time every summer. In fact, it's one of our dreams to be able to spend more time there in the summers and live the rest of the year here in Southwest Florida. We also like to go and take the kids to places. So we are usually trying to get out of the heat in the summertime when we're vacationing versus going to beaches and other warm spots. So that's kind of where we vacation when we live here for our family personally. All right, we get this question a lot too. Is it true that iguanas actually fall out of trees? Kind of crazy, but it is true. It is a real thing. So iguanas are cold-blooded, and so they get cold stunned. And when it gets down into the 40s, which doesn't happen a lot here, but we often will have 1 or 2 weeks in the winter, usually in January, where it will get really cold. And they actually lose control of their muscles and they just will fall out of the trees. It's crazy. But it kind of reminds me of when Jeremy brought me to the North Carolina mountains in November one time after we bought our condo. And I am definitely a Florida girl now. It was in the 40s and I was cold stunned. In fact, we got out of the car and I was so cold and stunned, I could barely even speak. It's kind of embarrassing because I did grow up in Central Illinois where it's nice and cold, but I get cold stunned just like the iguanas now. So be careful if you move to Florida because that's gonna happen to you too. All right, next. I've been asked before, why do you call manatees a sea cow? So if you're not familiar with manatees, they are a very gentle mammal. They are really large, that live in our warm waters, and they have a very slow and gentle nature. They often people, when you think about when you go past cows that are grazing in fields in, Central Illinois, places where I grew up, other places where there are cattle, and it's the same. They have a very slow, they graze on seagrass and vegetation. When they're moving through the water, they move really slow. So they have the sea cow nature, and it's really fun to kind of watch them when they're going through the waterways. They're our pockets. They're looking for warmer water. So we see them a lot down here in our shallow waters in the Gulf of Mexico. All right, I've been asked this before. Could you fry an egg on the sidewalk in the summertime in July in Southwest Florida? I've never tried it, but I probably should, because I guarantee that it is highly likely that you can. In the summer, it is hot here, hot and humid, and the sidewalk gets very hot. In fact, you need to make sure that you're taking care of your pets and your animals. Sometimes people forget, because we're usually wearing shoes, how hot our pavement might be. And so many of our houses and our neighborhoods have pavers as a standard for the driveway, and a lot of those pavers get really, really hot. So anyway, I haven't tried it, but I'm gonna guess that you could fry an egg on our sidewalk in July and August, which is our hottest time. All right, next, why is it so hot and humid here in Florida? Well, the reason is because we live between two warm bodies of water. We've got the Gulf of Mexico on one side of the state, we've got the Atlantic Ocean on the other side of the state. So we have a tremendous amount of moisture in the air. We also are very close to the equator. We're a subtropical climate down here in Southwest Florida once you move south of the Venice area. So we do have a sea breeze, but what's that sea breeze do? I mean, one, it does feel great, but it's also carrying more of that humid air across the land. So in the summertime, hurricane season, you know, for us, that means June, July, August, September. During those months, it is very hot and it is very humid here in Southwest Florida. All right, there you have it. I wanna know, what are some of the crazy questions that you've thought of? Oh, I forgot my bonus question. This is probably one of the most asked questions we ever get when we're out showing property and we're talking to people and they say to me, are there alligators in that water? The answer is yes. You should always expect that there is a gator in that water. This is where we live. We are building communities and neighborhoods around their home. And if there is water, you always need to expect that there's a gator in there. But here's the thing. You know, by nature, they are not aggressive. And when we come outside and there's a gator in our pond behind our house, they typically swim away because they don't want to be near people and they don't want to be near the noise. And we are tall humans. Now, do you want to walk your little dogs and, you know, along the edge of the water? No, you don't want to do that. So you always have to have an awareness. And it's against the law to feed gators, but sometimes you will have a more aggressive gator, and typically it's because somebody's breaking the law and they are feeding them. But don't worry, when we bought our first house in Stony Brook, when we first moved here 13 years ago, I'll never forget, they gave me at the closing table a list of important numbers, and the number one on the top was the Alligator hotline. Yeah, so we have a hotline. So if you have a gator that's a nuisance or that you have concern if it's being aggressive, you can call that hotline. But for the most part, we just want to let them be and let them live in nature and let them also enjoy our fantastic Southwest Florida lifestyle. All right, there you have it. What are some crazy questions that you've got? Or what are you dying to know? Do you have a burning question? Please either put it in the comments below or shoot me a text message. You can always contact me directly at 239-776-6872 because I want to know. There's so many fun questions that we get, and I love having these conversations with people and dispelling myths that they might have about what it's like moving to and living in Southwest Florida. If you thought this video was helpful, like it, subscribe to our channel, share it with a friend because we want to help you live joy too.